The restaurant was dimly lit, filled with the soft hum of conversation and the clinking of glasses. It was one of those expensive places where every plate looked more like art than food. In the corner, a man in a white flowing robe and perfectly polished sandals sat, his presence dominating the room. He was an Arab Sheikh, a wealthy businessman known for his arrogance as much as his fortune. His voice carried across the restaurant, sharp and commanding, as if he owned not just the table he sat at, but the very air around him. And then there was Sarah, a young waitress, working her double shift that night. Life had not been kind to her lately. Her mother was sick, bills were piling up, and she often skipped her own meals just to send money back home. Yet, she always wore a smile, serving each customer with patience and grace. But little did she know, that night would test her in ways she never imagined. The sheik snapped his fingers at her when she approached, not even bothering to look her in the eyes. "You. Water." "Now," he ordered, his tone dripping with disdain. Sarah hesitated for a moment, startled by his dismissive tone, but nodded politely and went to fetch what he asked for. When she returned, he leaned back in his chair, sneering. "Do you even understand who you are serving? Do you know how worthless you are in comparison to me?" His words cut through the air, loud enough for nearby diners to glance uncomfortably at the scene. Sarah's cheeks flushed, but she kept her composure. Years of hardship had taught her to stay calm, even when her heart screamed inside. The sheik wasn't done. He smirked and said something under his breath in Arabic, assuming she wouldn't understand. The words were cruel, about her clothes, her posture, her very worth as a human being. People at the next table shook their heads, but no one intervened. Sarah stood frozen, her hands trembling slightly as she held the tray. And then, something inside her snapped. Sarah took a deep breath, straightened her back, and looked him directly in the eye for the first time. When she spoke, her voice was steady, clear, and in perfect Arabic. "Respect is not bought with gold or titles. True greatness lies in kindness, something your wealth clearly cannot buy." The restaurant fell silent. Forks paused midway to mouths, conversations died out, and every eye turned to her. The sheik froze, his face drained of color. No one had ever dared to speak back to him, let alone in his own language. The very language he had just used to insult her now became the sword she wielded with dignity and strength. For the first time in years, he was speechless. His mouth opened as if to say something, but nothing came out. He wasn't just embarrassed, he was exposed. Exposed as a man who believed his wealth made him superior, only to be humbled by a young waitress who had nothing but her dignity and courage. Sarah turned and walked away calmly, refusing to give him another glance. But the impact of her words lingered in the room. Customers began to clap softly, then louder, until the entire restaurant filled with applause. The sheik remained frozen, his pride shattered in the most public way possible. But that was not the end of the story. That night, Sarah cried in the staff room, not because of shame, but because of the overwhelming release of emotion she had held back for so long. She had stood up for herself, yes, but more than that, she had spoken for every person who had ever been belittled, every worker who had been treated as invisible. The following weeks were difficult. Some feared she might lose her job for humiliating such a wealthy man. But instead, something unexpected happened. Word spread. Customers began coming to the restaurant, asking for her by name, leaving generous tips, and sharing the story of the brave waitress who dared to stand tall. Sarah's life slowly began to change. Her mother received better care, and for the first time in years, Sarah began to believe that dignity and courage could be more powerful than money. And what about the sheik? No one ever saw him at that restaurant again. Some say he left the country shortly after. Others whisper that he became quieter, less arrogant, almost humbled by the memory of that night. Perhaps Sarah's words pierced through the armor of his pride, leaving him with a lesson he could never forget. This story is not just about a waitress and a sheik. It's about power, dignity, and the strength of the human spirit. It reminds us that no matter how small we may feel, courage has the power to silence arrogance, and respect can never be demanded, it must be earned. So let me ask you, dear viewers, if you were in Sarah's place, what would you have done? Would you have stayed silent, or would you have found the strength to speak? Share your thoughts in the comments below, I'd love to read them. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and most importantly, subscribe to this channel. Be kind always. Because at the end of the day, kindness costs nothing, but it can change everything.